Welcome to the Respond podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Reigle, an intuitive and longtime mediator with over 20 years of experience helping people move through conflict, not just to resolve it, but to listen to it, because conflict is here to reveal what is no longer aligned within you, around you, and in the world that you're moving through. In part one of this episode, we looked at why Trump's energy appeared in our collective story, how it mirrors the cracks in our systems and the illusions we've been living under. We talked about how conflict doesn't just show up by accident. It arrives to reveal what's out of alignment and to make the unseen visible. Today, we're shifting the lens because this moment isn't just about one man. It's about also the movement that formed around him, this MAGA energy, and what it's showing us about belonging, identity, power. If Trump is the mirror reflecting the illusion, then his followers are the mirror reflecting our unmet need to be seen, valued, and feel safe. So in this episode, we are going to look at what's really happening inside that movement, what draws people to it so fiercely, what it's here to teach us about human nature, and how both sides of the divide are playing a part in what's trying to emerge next. All right, I want to start with something that I find incredibly revealing, something that fully expresses how Trump embodies the exact illusions he's here to dissolve. The very name he gives the movement, Make America Great Again, those 4 words sound nostalgic, right? But they're pointing straight to that illusion at the heart of our story, the idea that there was a time when America was truly great for everyone, when in reality that greatness only existed for a small slice of the population, those who fit the right race, gender, class, belief system. Because for many, that phrase doesn't necessarily stir pride, it stirs pain. Because it erases the truth that while some were thriving, others have been fighting just to be seen, heard, or feel safe. So in a sense, Trump's movement carries the perfect name for the role his energy plays. It's a mirror held up to the myth of American exceptionalism, the idea that we're living in a moral, fair, united society when so much of that unity was built on denial. He's not here to make America great again. He's here to expose the illusion that it ever truly was. And that slogan, Make America Great Again, proves it. It's the perfect mirror for the very illusion he's here to expose. It's almost funny in kind of an ironic way that he's branded the movement around the exact myth he's come to dissolve. Anyway, so in this episode, I want to dig into how and why Trump has gained such a strong following in the MAGA movement. Why are so many people feeling such a fierce connection to him? Because he really happens to resonate with a large part of the population. And I also want to look at how both his supporters and his critics are part of this larger process, how both sides in their own way are helping shape what comes next. So while Trump's energy is its own disruptive force, the movement surrounding him, the MAGA wave, his devoted followers, I think are an equally important part of what's being revealed right now, because his presence wouldn't hold power without any kind of resonance, right? The energy he carries found a home with these people because there were millions of people who felt unseen, unheard, and unrepresented long before he appeared. But his arrival activated something that was already sitting dormant inside of them, this need to feel powerful again. So I think for a lot of his followers, his energy feels like permission to be loud, to be angry, to push back against a system they feel has ignored them for too long. It's a way of taking their voice back, even if it's coming from a place of hurt. It's power trying to remember itself, but doing it in this distorted way. So what's really happening for many of them is that they see parts of themselves in him, the parts that have felt dismissed or disrespected, and recognize something familiar with him. His defiance almost feels like validation to them. His arrogance will read as strength, and his refusal to feel shame feels like freedom. And that's important to understand, not to excuse it, but to see what's really going on here. When people feel unseen or unheard for a long period of time, they'll often connect with anyone who seems to share that anger. It's finding someone who says out loud what they've been holding in for years. But underneath all that noise, I think something is going on here. And I think a lot of these followers are just searching for a way to feel like they belong. For many in the MAGA movement, that belonging has formed around a shared sense of loss, the feeling that the country they once knew or believed in has slipped away out of their grasp. The truth is, the old systems they want to make quote unquote great again worked best for people like them, for those who fit the mold the system was originally built to serve. And as those systems began to look more inclusive with new conversations about equality, representation, fairness, those deeper structures of power didn't actually shift all that much, right? So while things might have looked different on the surface, the same imbalance underneath was always driving everything. But for MAGA followers, it felt like the world was changing too fast, like everything familiar was being challenged or replaced. And there's this grip to hold on to it tightly. For many others, it felt like the world wasn't changing fast enough, and that the promise of fairness and equality were just all talk. So that tension, two groups kind of moving in opposite directions, both feeling ignored and misunderstood, I think created the perfect storm. And Trump's movement gave shape to that storm. It became the rallying point, a place to gather around what they were against, which was government control, social change, shifting values, diversity that challenged the old hierarchy. That kind of belonging can feel powerful. It can feel like unity, but it's fragile. Because belonging that's built on opposition is always going to crack under pressure. It's belonging built on pain, right? It's not on any kind of purpose. And pain can only hold people together for so long before it turns inward or falls apart. So for his followers, or for anyone who feels pulled towards that kind of energy, I would suggest that the invitation isn't necessarily shame or judgment. It's reflection. Take the time to reflect and ask yourself, what am I really looking for here? Is it safety? Is it validation? A sense of community? A desire to feel powerful again? Because the truth is that power you're reaching for isn't in Trump. It's in you. It's just been handed over to an external symbol of strength instead of being reclaimed from within. So the shift towards something more balanced starts when that energy turns inward, when the focus can move from defending him to discovering yourself. And here's what that can actually look like in real life. It can mean stopping the habit of blaming outside groups for everything that feels wrong, whether that's immigrants, DEI initiatives, the libs. Instead of just asking, what part of this frustration is mine to own, mine to look at? What choices have I made or avoided that have contributed to where I am right now in my life? It means actually taking responsibility for your reactions and the lens through which you are viewing the world. If you feel left behind, ask where you stopped growing. If you feel unheard, ask where you stopped listening. If you feel powerless, look at where you gave your power away. It's about recognizing where you've placed the blame. Did you blame it on the government, on a cultural shift, on someone else's progress? Instead of just looking at how your own actions, beliefs, or maybe even resistance to change might have kept you stuck. Because the real power comes from accountability. And when you can do that, when you can own your choices, your reactions, and your perspective, you stop needing to dominate or defend. You become centered. You start leading with awareness and integrity instead of outrage and blame. That's what it looks like to reclaim your power in a way that doesn't divide, but actually unites. Okay? It's not going to be loud or performative. It's grounded and being responsible. And that's the kind of power that can actually heal what's broken in our systems and in ourselves. And when more people start doing this, taking real ownership of their choices, reactions, and perspectives, something powerful is going to happen. They're going to stop looking for a savior or a strong man to speak for them because they realize they don't even need one. They become their own authority. They remember that they could always be that for themselves. That's what this tension is really here to expose. How easily we've given our power away and how ready we are now to take it all back. It's a collective moment of realization of who we are. So Trump's followers in that sense are just mirrors. They show us how deeply the human heart longs to feel seen and safe and significant. And if we can look at that longing with compassion instead of contempt, we're going to start shifting that collective energy because compassion breaks cycles that shame never will. The moment enough people reclaim their power from him, from politics, from external saviors of any kind, his influence is naturally going to fade because it once needed a leader to embody, it will finally have matured enough to embody itself. So when we step back and look at both sides, those who idolize Trump and put him on a pedestal, and then those who oppose him and rip him right off that pedestal, we start to see that both sides are actually orbiting and kind of reacting to that same collective breakdown, just from opposite ends of it. One side, Trump's followers feel unseen, unheard, and left behind. They feel like the system that once worked for them has turned its back. And then the other side, the opposition, feels horrified, betrayed, and desperate to protect what's left of integrity, equality, and truth. But even in that, there are distortions showing up. The opposition's reaction often carries its own kind of moral superiority, the belief that we're the good ones and they're the problem. So that energy might feel justified, but it's still rooted in fear of losing progress, fear of being pulled back, fear of chaos and control taking over again. So while one side's resisting change because it threatens their identity, the other side resists regression because it threatens their hope. Different emotions, same root, which is disillusionment, right? We're shaking loose that illusion. Both sides feel unsafe, unrepresented, and unheard as this illusion starts to dissolve. Each are convinced that the other is the reason why. That's the deeper truth here. This polarity isn't about good versus evil. It's about humanity trying to reconcile two distorted versions of power, one that controls and dominates, and one that defends and corrects. Both reactive, both incomplete, right? The real balance is going to live somewhere between the two, where power is no longer winning, but about aligning. And when I say aligning, what am I actually saying, right? So what do I mean when I say aligning? What does aligning actually mean? I think it means coming back into integrity with yourself, where your words, your actions, and your values all match up. It means getting honest about what's motivating you. Are you reacting to prove a point, or are you responding to move something forward? Are you trying to be right, or are you trying to be just real and authentic? Alignment asks you to slow down before you speak, post, engage, to check to see if what you're adding brings more clarity or just adding to the noise. It's choosing to be comforting, empathetic, accountable, and resisting the urge to blame and feel rage. In a productive way, I want to break this down for you so you kind of have an idea of what bringing yourself into alignment can really look like. First, I would suggest you listen to understand, not to attack. You can disagree without dehumanizing, right? Second, you stop fighting in the shadows. Instead of focusing on what you're against, you invest your energy in what you want to build. Third, you question your certainty. When you catch yourself thinking, they're all so wrong, just pause and ask yourself, what might I not be seeing here? And finally, you keep yourself aligned when you keep your heart open, even when your mind disagrees, because connection is what transforms conflict into growth. Alignment doesn't mean neutrality or apathy. It means staying centered while you stay engaged. It means acting from awareness, not reactivity. It's using your voice to contribute instead of control. Progress doesn't happen because one side wins. It happens because enough of us choose to rise above the fight. When more of us start leading from alignment instead of fear, the systems built on distortion naturally start to lose their power. They dissolve not because we destroy them, but because we've outgrown them. I want to say this again, we've outgrown the systems. And that's the moment we're standing in now. The old systems are trembling because we're finally evolving beyond them. So this tension, as exhausting as it feels, is how we find our way forward. It's how something truer, more balanced, and more humane will begin to emerge. That's what's trying to come in now. A new system, one that's not built on control, superiority, or dependence. We already know that doesn't work. It's a system that's going to be built on awareness, where personal responsibility is going to replace blame, where truth is not dictated from above, but discerned from within all of us, where leadership is less about power and more about stewardship. What can leaders do for us? It's the system that emerges naturally when the old one collapses under the weight of its own distortion. But for it to anchor in, each of us has to evolve beyond that energy that created the old one. It means remembering that our power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from being in alignment with ourselves. Because a world built by people who are grounded, self-aware, and connected to their own inner authority will naturally create structures that reflect those qualities. So as these old systems crumble, the invitation for all of us, no matter where we stood in this polarity, is to start embodying the new world now in our conversations, our choices, our relationships, our leadership. The old system fed on fear, division, and superiority. The new one will be built on clarity, compassion, and connection. That's what's being born right now through all this chaos, through all this noise. It's not destruction for its own sake. We're reordering the energy that's guiding humanity towards something more authentic, more awake, more aligned with who we're becoming. So when we come back to the heart of this conversation, the original intention of the episode, it's really this. Trump and the MAGA movement and its opposition are all catalysts exposing the deep misalignment that's been living underneath our systems, our culture, and even our own consciousness. His energy was ushered into this moment because humanity reached a point where we can no longer maintain our current structures by pretending they're working. We needed to see what was broken, to feel the disconnection, so we can move through it and find a better, more aligned system. So as you move through this moment that we're living through, try to remember, don't react, respond with awareness, respond with intention, because that's how we shift the energy, one conscious response at a time. All right, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on both of these episodes, part 1 and part 2. What stood out to you? What challenged you? What brought a sense of clarity? I would encourage you to comment or send me a message. I truly do welcome the conversation. I hope you all have a great week. Until next time, don't react, respond with intention.